This story is called My Fiancé Wanted a Break to Reconnect with Her Ex, said she'd come back if it didn't work out, so I made sure she had nothing left to return to. Hey everyone, after spending what feels like an eternity reading stories on here, I figured it's finally time I shared my own. So yeah, here's what's been going down. My name's Ethan. I'm 33 years old, and up until recently, I truly believed I was about to marry the woman of my dreams, Natalie. We'd been together for 6 solid years, and for most of that time, I honestly thought we were unshakable. But now, sitting here and looking back, I can't help but wonder how I missed the signs. Natalie and I first crossed paths at a birthday party for a mutual friend. She had this sharp wit, a fearless vibe, and a take-no-crap attitude that instantly caught my attention. I'd dated a few women before her, sure, but none of them ever made me feel like she did. We connected right away, and about a year later, we decided to move in together. It all just flowed naturally, like we shared the same outlook on life, careers, marriage, maybe starting a family down the road. She was a freelance graphic designer, and I was working in marketing, so our work schedules actually synced up pretty nicely. We weren't living some flashy, extravagant life, but it was comfortable and it made me happy. We'd been tossing around the idea of marriage for a while, and then last year, I finally asked her. It wasn't some over-the-top proposal, just the two of us, a quiet dinner at home. Nothing fancy, but it felt right. Natalie looked over the moon. She teared up, hugged me tight, and said yes. That same night, we jumped straight into planning our future together. We envisioned a cozy autumn wedding, a small circle of guests, and this charming little lakeside venue we'd both fallen in love with. Everything seemed to be falling into place like a dream. Or at least, that's what I believed. The first warning signs weren't big, dramatic red flags. They were more like quiet little shifts I tried to ignore because I didn't want to overanalyze things. Like how Natalie's excitement about wedding planning gradually started to fade. In the beginning, she was all over it, sending me Pinterest links, obsessing over dresses, asking my opinion on tiny details like whether tulips or roses would look better on the tables. But then it just stopped. I'd ask her something simple like, "Have you picked your bridesmaids yet?" and she'd wave it off. "Not yet." "I'm still thinking about it," she'd repeat again and again. Same story with her dress, the cake, the playlist, everything we were once hyped about just became something she wanted to push off. There's still time, she'd tell me, like the whole wedding had slipped to the bottom of her priorities. At the time, I convinced myself it was just nerves. Planning a wedding is stressful, right? Plus, Natalie had a lot on her plate with work, so I figured it was just temporary and she'd bounce back. What I didn't see back then was that it wasn't the wedding she was disengaging from, it was us. And the real gut punch didn't come until one night when we were out with friends. Somebody brought along that cringy TikTok game, we listen, but we don't judge. You've probably seen it, it's that game where you're supposed to answer personal questions while everyone tries not to react. Of course, people always react. Anyway, everything was light and fun until someone asked, if you could relive one past relationship, which one would it be? Without missing a beat, Natalie said, "Oh, probably Logan." Just like that. Logan, her ex from college. The same guy who cheated on her. The whole room went quiet in that awkward, stunned kind of way. She let out a nervous laugh and tried to backpedal with, "I mean, not like I really want to, it's just, he was a big part of my life." Right then, I wanted to confront her. But we were in a group, so I kept it in. Later that night, when it was just the two of us, I brought it up. "What was that about Logan? Why would you even say something like that?" She shrugged like it was nothing. "It was a dumb game, Ethan. Don't take it so seriously." She gave me a smile and quickly switched topics. I let it go in the moment, mostly because I didn't want to pick a fight over something that might not even mean anything. But deep down, that comment stuck with me. And after that night, her behavior only got harder to ignore. She was glued to her phone more than usual, smiling to herself as she scrolled. She started pulling out of our plans last minute, giving half-baked reasons for why she couldn't hang out. "Sorry, I've got a ton of work to catch up on." Or, "I promised my mom I'd see her this weekend." Nothing that screamed cheating, but there were enough of these moments that it started to wear on me. I couldn't help but feel like I was being pushed to the back burner. Then came the Friday that flipped everything upside down. I got off work earlier than usual and was looking forward to a chill night in with Natalie. I figured we'd order takeout, maybe start a new show, just keep it low-key. But the second I stepped inside, I could feel the energy was off. She was sitting on the couch with her laptop open, not typing, not even moving, just staring at the screen like she was somewhere else. "Hey, I'm home," I said, trying to break the weird silence. "You're early," she replied, like that was some kind of problem. I brushed it off and headed into the kitchen to start dinner. But the quiet was deafening. Usually, she'd be chatting away about her day or asking me about mine. That night? Nothing. Eventually, I turned around and asked, "Is everything okay?" She shut her laptop and looked over at me. "Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about." And right then, my heart sank. You know that sinking feeling when you just know something bad's coming and there's no way to stop it? That's exactly what I felt. I put the spatula down and sat across from her. "Okay," I said. "What's going on?" She paused, clearly trying to figure out how to say whatever was coming. Then, with a shaky breath, she let it out. "I've been thinking a lot about us and about Logan." I almost laughed out loud. "Logan? Are you kidding me? What about him?" She bit her lip, avoided eye contact, and said, "I think I need a little time to see if there's still anything there with him." I just stared at her, trying to wrap my head around what I just heard. "You want to hit pause on our engagement so you can go explore things with your ex?" She scrambled to explain. "It's not like that. I need to be sure I'm making the right choice. And if it turns out there's nothing with Logan, I'll come back." That's when it really hit me how entitled she was. She actually thought I'd just sit here, waiting around like a backup plan. Something shifted in me right then and there. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I just sat silently, staring at her, completely floored that I hadn't seen this coming. I didn't even know what to say. My fiancée, someone I'd spent 6 years building a future with, just told me she wanted to hit pause on us to chase after her ex, Logan. What are you even supposed to say to something like that? Eventually, I managed to get the words out. "So, what does this break actually mean to you?" I kept my voice steady even though my insides were anything but. She sat up straighter like she'd rehearsed this conversation a few times in her head. "I just think we need some space," she said, almost too calmly. "Time to figure things out." She looked me in the eye barely and added, "I need to see if what I'm feeling about Logan is real. And maybe you could use this time to think about us too." I stared at her, stunned by the gall. "Wait a second," I said, leaning forward. "So, you get to go see if your ex still does it for you and I'm supposed to sit here and reflect on us? What kind of twisted logic was that?" Natalie exhaled hard, like I was the one being irrational. "This isn't about you doing anything wrong, Ethan. This is about me figuring myself out." And right then, I could tell she'd practiced this speech. The way she spoke, the way she avoided really looking at me, it felt like she'd already made her decision and now just wanted me to nod along with it. "You do realize how insane this sounds, right?" I said, my voice tightening. "You don't put your fiancé on pause while you go chase closure with the guy who cheated on you." Her expression shifted, hardened. And that's when I saw just how dug in she was. "I'm not asking for your approval, Ethan," she said sharply. "I'm telling you what I need to do." That one hit different. My sadness started turning into something hotter, sharper, anger. I got up and started pacing the room, trying to keep a lid on it. "So what now?" I asked, hands on my hips. "You just throw some clothes in a bag and head off to Logan's place like this is some rom-com?" Her voice rose defensively. "No, it's not like that." She fumbled for words. "I don't even know what this will look like yet. I need clarity before I can move forward. I owe that to myself." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "You owe it to yourself? And what about what you owe me? We're engaged, Natalie. We were building something real. And now you're telling me you need to go test drive your ex just to see if I'm the right choice." "I never said you weren't good enough," she snapped back, raising her voice. "But if we're going to spend our lives together, I need to be sure. And right now, I'm not." That was the part that really got me. It wasn't just about Logan. It was that after 6 years together, after all our plans and memories, she still couldn't say with certainty that she wanted me. That truth hit me like a brick wall. She didn't even realize how cruel, how ridiculous her request actually was. In her mind, this was rational. She expected me to just sit still while she played what if with her past. I stopped pacing and looked at her. I mean, really looked at her. "You know what?" I said flatly. "Fine. Take your break." She blinked, clearly not expecting me to fold that easily. "Ethan, I'm not trying to hurt you," she said, softer now. I need the space to figure things out." I nodded slowly, my face unreadable. "All right, do what you have to do." She hesitated, like she was waiting for me to beg her to stay. When I didn't, she stood up, grabbed her laptop, and said quietly, "I'll go stay with my mom for a bit. This isn't goodbye. We'll talk when I've had some time." "Okay," I replied, keeping my tone even. She gave me one last look like she wasn't sure what to say next and then disappeared into the bedroom. I could hear drawers opening, zippers zipping, her throwing things into a bag. I sat there on the couch, outwardly calm, but inside my brain was already spinning. If she wanted this break so badly, she could have it. A few minutes later, the front door clicked shut behind her. She probably thought she was leaving me behind to wait and worry. What she didn't know was I wasn't planning to wait around. She could chase her fantasy. I had a different plan now. I don't know how long I sat there, staring into space, before I snapped out of it. The first thing I did was grab my phone and call Ryan. Ryan's been my best friend since college, and he's never been the kind of guy to sugarcoat anything. If I needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind, he was it. He picked up on the second ring. "Yo, what's up?" he said casually. "Natalie wants to take a break, to date her ex," I blurted out. There was a long pause on the other end. "She said that to your face?" he finally asked, his voice dead serious. "Yep," I muttered, rubbing at the side of my head. "Packed a bag and left like it was no big deal. Said she needs clarity." Ryan let out a low whistle. "Dude, that's brutal. Are you okay?" "Not even close," I admitted. "I mean 6 years, man. And she's still hung up on Logan." "You want me to come over?" he asked. "I'll bring food. We'll talk it out." "Yeah," I said, grateful. That'd actually be great. About an hour later, he showed up with pizza in hand. He didn't even wait for the whole story. He just let me talk. I vented about everything, every little sign I'd brushed off, every detail of that awful conversation. When I was done, he just shook his head. "Bro, she's not worth it," he said firmly. "If she can't see what she had with you, that's on her. You're not some backup plan. You deserve better than that." I nodded slowly. I knew he was right. But that didn't make it any easier. This wasn't just about losing Natalie, it was about losing the future I'd built in my head. Marriage, a family, growing old together, all of it was slipping through my fingers. We stayed up late talking, flipping through channels and eating pizza, and for the first time in hours, the panic started to ease a little. I still didn't know what I was going to do, but one thing was crystal clear. I wasn't going to sit around waiting while Natalie played house with her ex. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Still half asleep, I rolled over and squinted at the screen. It was her. Of course. "Natalie, can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment, my head still foggy. "She wants to talk?" "Yeah?" After everything she said, now she wanted to act like the concerned partner? Maybe she realized how ridiculous she sounded yesterday. I dragged myself into the kitchen and started the coffee. There was no way I was dealing with this before caffeine hit my system. As I leaned on the counter, sipping slowly, my thoughts started to spiral again. She really thought she could waltz back in and pretend like I owed her grace and understanding. But I wasn't angry anymore. Not exactly. I was just stunned. Stunned that someone could be so self-absorbed, so lost in their own little storyline, that they thought this kind of betrayal was somehow acceptable. But I wasn't about to let her see any of that. No, if she wanted to play games, I'd play too. Only this time, I wouldn't be the one left holding the short end of the stick. Finally, I picked up my phone and typed out a reply. "Sure. Come over later." Short. To the point. Let her think she still had some kind of say in this. A few hours passed, and then there she was, standing in the doorway like nothing had happened. She walked in looking like she'd spent hours crafting the perfect, "I've got it all together" look. Her hair was perfectly styled, makeup flawless, and not a crease out of place. You could tell she'd practiced this whole thing in the mirror. She was clearly ready to pitch me some carefully packaged idea she thought I'd buy into. I didn't say a word, I just stepped aside and let her in. She moved through the doorway like nothing had changed, settling onto the couch like it was just another casual visit. "Thanks for letting me stop by," she said in that soft, almost patronizing tone, like she was doing me some big favor. I leaned back against the wall with my arms crossed. "So, what's on your mind?" She took a breath and folded her hands like she was about to deliver a TED Talk. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started. "And I thought, here we go again. And I believe I've come up with a way for us to move forward," she continued, voice calm and almost too polished. I gave her a slow nod, keeping my face unreadable. "Okay, let's hear it." She paused, clearly building up to whatever nonsense she was about to drop. "I think it makes the most sense for us to just pause the wedding plans for now," she said, like she'd just come up with a genius solution to world hunger. "Just temporarily," she added quickly. "While I take the time I need to sort through my feelings and get clarity. That way we don't throw away all the progress we've made and we can pick up where we left off once I'm sure." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one. She was dead serious. "That's your big idea?" I asked, raising a brow. "Yes," she said with a firm nod, like she'd just solved a complex equation. "It's the practical thing to do. We've already invested so much time, energy, and money into this relationship. I don't want to just toss it all aside over something that might not even matter later on." Might not even matter. Those words rattled around in my head like an echo. She was talking about us, our entire relationship, as if it were some stock investment she was unsure about cashing out. I felt a laugh forming in my chest, but I kept it down. "Not yet. Let her finish." You're okay with this, right? She asked, tilting her head like she was genuinely confused by my lack of emotion. Yeah, I said, shrugging. Her eyes narrowed slightly like she didn't quite believe me. Wait, you're really okay with it? I nodded. If that's what you need, then sure. Go for it. She blinked at me, clearly taken off guard. I could tell she had expected a whole fight, maybe even some begging. But I gave her nothing. I just don't want you to think this means I don't care, she added in a hurry, trying to soften it all. I just need space to figure out what I really want. It's not forever. Got it, I said calmly. For a moment, she just stood there, staring, trying to figure me out. But I didn't give her anything to hold on to. She finally stood up, smoothing out her jeans like she needed something to do with her hands. I'll stay at my mom's for a while, she said again. This isn't permanent. We'll talk once I've had time. All right, I said, keeping my tone flat. She lingered for a second like there was more she wanted to say. But in the end, she just grabbed her bag and headed toward the door. Thanks for understanding, she said, pausing with her hand on the knob. I just nodded, my face unreadable. When she left, I stood there for a while, trying to wrap my head around how I could have ever pictured this woman as my wife. She was out there chasing closure with her ex and somehow still believed I'd be sitting here, waiting patiently, hoping I was enough for her perfect little fairy tale. But what she didn't realize is that she no longer got to make that decision. I walked over to the window and watched her car pull out of the driveway. She probably felt relieved, thinking she'd bought herself some time to see where things went with Logan. Let her have that illusion. Because the truth was I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to fight for a place in someone's life who put me second to an old flame. She could have her space. She could have Logan. I was done pretending. Funny thing is, I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt free. It was like a light had flipped on in a dark room. For so long, I'd been bending over backward trying to be what she needed, trying to hold everything together. But now it was finally about what I needed. I dropped onto the couch, arms resting on my knees. I could already hear her voice in my head, maybe weeks or months from now, trying to worm her way back in. I made a mistake, Ethan. I just needed time to see what I wanted. Too bad. Life doesn't hand out do-overs like candy. I wasn't about to sit here, waiting for her to figure it out. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't a game. It was closure. She made her choice, and so did I. Over the next week, I got to work. Not to get even, but to clean house. Literally and emotionally. First up, the wedding. I opened my laptop and started shutting it all down. Venue canceled. Photographer gone. Caterer refunded what I could. Some deposits were non-refundable, but I didn't care. This wasn't about dollars. It was about closing a door that should have been slammed shut the second she packed her bag. As I clicked through cancellation emails, I couldn't help but chuckle. Natalie probably imagined me crying over her, still clinging to the hope she'd come back. She had no idea I was erasing her from my life with every tap of the keyboard. Then I turned my attention to the house. She always acted like it was ours. She picked the paint, obsessed over throw pillows, even forced those hideous live, laugh, love signs into every corner. But here's the thing she never understood. The house wasn't ours. It was mine. My name on the title. My money in every payment. I called Ryan, and he hooked me up with a real estate agent. A few days later, I had listing paperwork in hand. My plan was simple: sell it all, pack up, and move on. If she ever came crawling back, she'd find the door gone, the house sold, and nothing waiting. She wanted to go find herself? Great. She could do that from zero. The most satisfying part? She'd left all her crap behind: clothes, knickknacks, stacks of her books, and those cheesy wall quotes. I boxed it all up and drove it to her mom's. No warning. No message. Just a box on the porch and a note taped to it that read, "Here's your stuff. Good luck with Logan." Petty? Maybe. Did I care? Not even a little. And then I waited. Sure enough, a week later, my phone buzzed. "Natalie, can we talk? I think we need to clear the air." I actually laughed out loud. Looked like her fairy tale reunion with Logan wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I couldn't help myself. I wanted to see how she'd spin this. Sure. Come by tomorrow. The next day, right on cue, she showed up. She stepped inside and immediately froze, eyes darting around, scanning the bare walls, the empty shelves, the half-packed boxes near the door. Her voice wavered. "What's going on here?" "I'm selling the house," I said, casually, like I was chatting about the weather, leaning back against the kitchen counter. Her mouth dropped open. "You're what? Selling our house?" "It's not our house, Natalie," I said, letting that truth settle into the air between us. "It's mine. And honestly, I don't need all this space anymore." She looked at me like I'd just slapped her across the face. You didn't even tell me? She asked, her voice catching. Why would I? I replied, keeping my tone level. You left. Remember? Her face drained of color. Wait, so you've been planning this? You're just moving on. I gave a small shrug. What else was I supposed to do? Sit around hoping you'd come back? She shook her head, panicked now, voice climbing. No, Ethan, that's not what I meant when I said I needed time. I didn't think you'd. Didn't think I'd what? I cut in. Take you seriously? You told me you needed space to figure out whether you wanted to be with me or Logan. So I gave you that space. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. But not like this. I didn't mean it like this. I thought you understood I wasn't ending things. I let out a low laugh, shaking my head. Clarity? I said, my voice tightening. No, Natalie, you didn't want clarity. You wanted a safety net. You thought you could go running back to Logan, see how that felt, and then come waltzing back here like nothing happened. That's not how it works. And just like that, her whole act fell apart. Ethan, please, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. I made a mistake. Logan, he's not who I thought he was. He hasn't changed. He's the same guy who hurt me before. I was stupid, I know that now. Please don't do this. Don't throw us away. I crossed my arms, meeting her pleading eyes with a calm I didn't expect to have. You're right about one thing, I said. You were stupid. But not just for going back to him. You were stupid for thinking I'd ever let you treat me like I'm some backup plan. She reached for my arm, gripping it like she could still pull me back in. I wasn't Ethan, I swear, I just panicked. I was scared. But it's always been you. I know that now. We can fix this. We can still get married. I pulled my arm away and stepped back. No, Natalie. We can't. You made your choice. You chose doubt. You chose him. And now I'm choosing me. Her face collapsed and the tears started pouring. Ethan, please. I'll do anything. Don't do this. Please don't give up on us. It's already done, I said quietly but firmly. You broke this. You don't get to pretend it never happened. She stood there for a moment, shaking, tears falling until she realized there was nothing left to say. She turned and walked out. And with that, Natalie walked out of my life. Or so I thought. I sold the house, signed a lease on a new apartment, and started the process of scrubbing her from my world. It wasn't out of spite. I wasn't bitter, I just didn't have the energy to carry her baggage anymore. I thought it was over. Clean cut. Separate paths. But Natalie? She wasn't done. And the way she came back wasn't direct. It started quietly with a phone call from my mom. I barely said hello before she launched into it. Ethan, why am I hearing from Aunt Sharon that your wedding's off? Is that true? I froze. The words blindsided me. Natalie and I were the only ones who knew the wedding was canceled. I hadn't told my family yet. I didn't want to deal with their questions, their judgment, their opinions. So how did Aunt Sharon know? Where'd Sharon hear that from? I asked, already knowing the answer. From Natalie's mom, my mom said, her voice tight. Apparently you called off the wedding. Natalie's heartbroken. And now the family thinks you're being unreasonable. I nearly dropped the phone. Heartbroken? Unreasonable? The sheer nerve of her trying to twist it all around was almost impressive. She'd been the one to walk away, she wanted to chase her ex. And now she was spinning this like I blindsided her? Mom, I said, doing my best to stay calm, that's not how it happened. Natalie and I aren't together anymore because she made that choice. I just moved on. Well, you better say something, she snapped. Half the family's gossiping about it and they all think you left her high and dry. Damage control. That's what this had come to. Not only had she inserted herself into my family's conversations, but she'd spun the whole thing into a melodramatic sob story. I should have let it go. I really should have. But then the second blow landed. Later that same day, I got a call from my boss. Hey, Ethan, he said cautiously. Just wanted to check in. Is everything okay? I heard from a friend that your ex is going through a rough time. She mentioned your name. My blood ran cold. She what? She didn't go into detail, he added quickly. But you know how word gets around. Just wanted to make sure it's not going to bleed into work. I clenched my jaw. The puzzle pieces locked into place. Natalie wasn't just crying to my family. She was dragging my name through the mud with anyone who would listen, even letting it trickle into my professional life. That was it. I'd stayed quiet this whole time, thinking the mature thing was to walk away with grace. But if she wanted to turn this into a public pity parade, fine. She was going to get a response. The next morning, I wrote one message. One clean, simple message. I sent it to both our families. Hi everyone. Just wanted to clear the air. Natalie and I are no longer engaged. It was a mutual decision after many difficult conversations. I'd really appreciate it if everyone could respect our privacy and avoid pointing fingers or assigning blame. Thanks. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. But it shut her narrative down in one shot. Then I blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, email. Gone. She didn't get a front row seat to my life anymore. Not after the way she tried to rewrite our story. The backlash wasn't easy. My mom wasn't thrilled. Some relatives still whispered about how I could walk away from such a nice girl. But I knew the truth. That was enough. All Natalie really did was show me how little she respected me or what we had. If anything, she helped me realize I was better off without her. So this was me finally drawing the line. Blocking her felt like flipping a switch. Suddenly, the noise stopped. The drama? Gone. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Now it was my turn to take control of the story. People love to make up their own stories when you stay quiet, and I'd given Natalie way too much room to do just that. So I picked up the phone and started calling the folks who actually mattered, my close friends, my siblings, my mom. I laid it all out for them, no sugarcoating, no dramatic retelling. Just the truth. Over coffee with my mom, I finally said it out loud. Look, I didn't walk away from something good. She bailed on me to go chase her ex. That's the real story. I tried to keep things civil, but now she's out here spinning it like she's some poor, broken-hearted victim. Mom gave me that look, the one that used to stop me in my tracks when I was a kid. The kind that silently said, "Watch your tone, young man." I get it, Ethan, she sighed. But maybe you could have handled it with a little more tact. Tactful? I raised an eyebrow. She's airing our dirty laundry to anyone who'll listen. I'm done tiptoeing around this. That hit home. She leaned back, finally softening. I just want you to be happy, she said quietly. Don't let her pull you down. After that, it became my mission to cut off the gossip wherever it popped up. If someone brought up Natalie, I gave them the simple version. It didn't work out. She turned out to be someone I didn't recognize. That's all. Most folks backed off after that. But not everyone got the hint. Like my cousin Jason, who decided to corner me at a family barbecue. Hey man, I heard you left Natalie hanging. What's the story there? I just looked at him for a second, stunned that he'd say that to my face. You heard wrong, Jason, I said flatly. She walked out on me to reconnect with her ex. If you want the full version, go ask her. I'm not here to play gossip telephone. He didn't have much to say after that. While I was cleaning up that mess, I still had to stay on top of work too. Thankfully, my boss was chill about everything. I pulled him aside and explained the basics, nothing dramatic, just enough so he'd know I had it handled. He nodded and said, I figured there was more to the story. Just keep doing your thing, Ethan. Don't let the noise get to you. But of course, Natalie wasn't finished. A week later, I got an email from Emily, a mutual friend. She wasn't picking sides, just thought I should know what was going on. Hey Ethan, just wanted to give you a heads up. Natalie's been posting stuff online. Nothing directly naming you, but it's clearly about you. Thought you'd want to know. I thanked her and took a quick look. Sure enough, Natalie was posting vague, cryptic quotes about betrayal and being discarded. One post read, "Some people throw away diamonds while chasing stones." Real subtle. For a moment, I wanted to respond. I wanted to call her out for being a manipulative coward. But then I stopped myself. That's exactly what she wanted. A reaction. Instead, I did the smart thing, reported the posts for harassment, blocked the account, and kept it moving. That moment was huge for me. It was the first time I truly understood I didn't owe her, or anyone, an explanation anymore. My life wasn't her stage. I wasn't a character in her sad little script. If she wanted to keep living in the past, that was her choice. I'd already stepped out of that storyline. Later, while hanging out with my buddy Brandon, he hit me with something that really stuck. Dude, you dodged a damn missile, he said, shaking his head. Imagine if she pulled this after the wedding. You're lucky, man. Seriously. And he was right. As brutal as it all felt in the moment, breaking things off before signing a marriage license might have been the biggest blessing in disguise. It wasn't just the drama. Being with Natalie had blinded me to what I actually needed in a partner. I needed someone who had my back, not someone who would bolt at the first sign of doubt. Fast forward a few months and things finally started settling down. People stopped asking about her. My coworkers moved on. Even the family, once obsessed with her side of the story, stopped bringing her up. And her social media posts? They dried up too. Maybe she realized no one was biting anymore. Maybe she finally understood the pity parade had passed her by. I'd love to sit here and say I forgave her. But the truth is I didn't. And that's okay. Not every betrayal needs forgiveness to be left behind. I don't hate her. I just don't care anymore. The closure didn't come from an apology. It came from realizing I wasn't waiting for one. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was living my life for me, not for some imaginary approval from friends, family, or anyone else caught in the crossfire. If there's one thing I learned through all this, it's that sometimes the hardest choices end up saving you. Cutting Natalie off wasn't easy, but it was necessary. It taught me to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, to never again settle for being someone's second choice. Looking back now, I've got no regrets. I'm in a better place mentally, emotionally, even physically. Life's too short to waste on people who don't see your worth. And if I've taken anything from this whole mess, it's this. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's living well. And with that, this chapter of my life is officially closed. Appreciate you sticking around until the end.